Unless you've been exclusively playing retro video games for the past few years, you'll have probably noticed by now that most games are going for an increased amount of RNG-based systems as well as case and key systems. That's not to mention microtransactions, DLC, and bullshit pre-order practices. However, in this video we're going to be mostly focusing on how modern gaming is taking more and more influence from the age-old hook, line, and sinker of classic gambling that's been going on for centuries now. In fact, it can be quite strongly argued that some modern games, especially those that are free to play, do a better job at manipulating players and getting their money than most casinos do. Instead of heavily relying on massive amounts of people buying your game, like in the old days, many modern free-to-play developers are now making a bulk of their profits from whales. No, not those whales. Or necessarily those. These so-called whales are what most free-to-play and microtransaction developers actually refer to a group of their player base as. Whales are the portion of the players that are the biggest spenders, so in this case the whales aren't fat people, but people with fat stacks. Each developer has their own definitions of how much you have to spend to become a whale, but typically once you cross the $100 mark, you can call me Eshmiel. Interestingly, these so-called whales only make up a teeny group of the player base, typically around 1 to 5%, while collectively giving the developer more money than everyone else. With this new form of making money comes a different approach to development. It is in a free-to-play developer's best interest to harpoon new players at the start and then pad out the endgame content, while leaving a big gap to work through in the middle of the game. Once you have played a certain amount of time, you either stop playing, grind your ass off, or become the small elite group to get invested and pay up. This is why free-to-play games work so well, as they end up turning away a large amount of players in the process. Now there are two basic forms of gambling. The first involves some skill, sports betting, poker, etc. With skill-based gambling, and I'm using that term very lightly again, the experienced players will often be able to turn a profit, while the new, inexperienced, and dumb players will provide the income. It works the opposite way with pure luck-based gambling, as the more you play, the more you typically lose. This is where the whales come in, and why new players are often typically given lots of stuff at the start of the game. Video games almost always stick to a pure luck-based system because it can be way simpler for new players to grasp and will net a profit from all forms of the player base. Some free games aren't pure concentrated evil that exploit the shit out of players, with energy bars and time gates. In the free-to-play Hearthstone, for example, the card packs can be earned reasonably fast with gold, and you can build individual cards with glitter. Still, if you want to actually take the game seriously, you are probably going to end up paying. A big part of casinos is making a person comfortable and want to spend time inside, and this same ideal carries over to games. The developers update and give out free maps and stuff, which makes the player comfortable with taking a few spins at the magic skin crate. In my opinion, this is a reasonably fair system, as long as you can control yourself. There are three main reasons why cosmetics work so well at making money. The first is that players just like the new look and it spices up the game for them. The second is the psychological and social feature of having the cosmetics. It is our human nature to have better stuff than everyone else. For example, in the past you had to have better stuff than your neighbors. Now you gotta have the best stat track Rambit in the map. Now getting the admiration and jealousy of some kids online isn't very high on my priority list, but hey, whatever floats your boat.
Oh my god!
And the last and final reason is that now, thanks to PayPal and Valve, you can make money if you're lucky. Really lucky. Video games and gambling is a huge gray area at the moment. It gets even more gray when the items can be sold for real money or used on third-party betting websites like CSGO Lounge or CSGO Jackpot. With case openings, the items aren't considered actual money, and you never lose per se because you always get something, even if it's only worth 3 cents. That said, Valve skins are basically casino tokens that can be used by minors on a completely unregulated network of betting sites. I strongly suspect it is only a matter of time before the government realizes just how much money is being made without them and steps in to regulate. There's a reason new betting sites are crawling out of the woodwork like termites every single day, and no, it's not because they're generous. Think carefully before rolling the dice and consider some of the ways that developers can take advantage of players. At the end of the day, if you are happy with your purchase, that's more power to you. Just keep in mind that as a player, you shape the future of the free-to-play as well as microtransaction-based market. If you refuse to buy it, then the market will get better and more player friendly. Alternatively, if you give in to really petty and stupid microtransactions for games that abuse players, then you will make a negative impact on the free-to-play genre, and more developers will feel comfortable taking advantage of you. If you haven't already seen some of the videos on screen now, you can feel free to check them out. Thanks for watching.
We